On this, here we go.
Welcome to Get Justice with Scott Elliot Smith and Michael. How are you, sir?
I'm good, buddy. It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back. It's the holiday season.
Yes. You know what's funny is somebody brought up to me about your show about Christmas parties. And I said, this is something we should address, but maybe not today. But it was funny they thought of you first. The first thing they thought was, I have this issue about Christmas parties and who's liable for who's drinking and driving. So let's just start off by saying, please don't drink and drive. Use an Uber, get a designated driver. And if you're listening to the show on a Sunday morning, you should not be out drinking and driving this early, all right? So we put that out.
Good comments, Michael. However, let's talk about it. Let's touch on that topic.
Okay.
You go to a Christmas party, you're invited to a Christmas party versus you're having a Christmas party. Big difference. If you're having a Christmas party for your company and employees, I would suggest you don't serve alcohol because even though it's tough to sue if in fact you've been to a Christmas company party and you get drunk and you drive and you wreck into somebody and you hurt them or kill them, they're going to come to someone like me. And I'm going to look real hard at this Christmas policy of what they do at the Christmas company parties. If they're serving alcohol and it's free even, or part of the benefit of having the Christmas party, you may have an employer who's on the hook for whatever they may have caused. Now, the laws have tightened up on that, and it's benefiting the businesses like it is in Ohio to give them more of a buffer and insulation. There's still that liability question and exposure.
Well, that was the initial question is as I was driving, but I was not texting and driving. I had my Bluetooth in, so I was doing it in a safe way. The question was, who's responsible? Because the person that was saying this to me was in charge of the Christmas party and did the drink ticket deal. You know, you got 2 drink tickets and that's your max. Yet somehow someone gets like tickets like you're playing skee ball and they have like 20 drinks because someone else isn't drinking. Who is responsible in there? Is it the person putting on the party? Is it the venue? Is it the person serving? There's so many different touch points.
Let's do a hypothetical,
okay,
so we understand the players here. We've got the employer who's sponsoring and providing the alcohol for the party. That's a company function. You've got the employees who are there and voluntarily drinking, I presume. No one's forcing them to drink.
I would presume that as well.
And it is the employee who may get in a car and who may drive the car and due to their under the influence condition cause a collision where someone's hurt or killed. All right. Under that scenario, the employer has potential exposure. But as I just said a minute ago, the law in Ohio protects employers, it protects businesses, it protects big money and insurance companies. It doesn't protect consumers. The person who was hit, who's driving down the road, who is perfectly sober, in their lane of traffic, did nothing wrong, is going to suffer from the laws in Ohio. So, let's take it one at a time. Who's responsible? Well, the employer may be. But the law in place right now, without going into the details, makes it very difficult to prove the employer responsible. They have different levels of responsibility depending upon whether the employee was a guest, a licensee, a paid subscriber to the party, whatever it may be. There is potential liability against the employer. So I would advise any employer not to do it, but they've got some insulation. Obviously, the person who's drinking, obviously the person who has voluntarily drank more than the legal limit will calculate when they're taken to the hospital or blow into a breathalyzer, they're primarily responsible. Let's don't leave that out there. But what do they have by way of insurance? Well, most employers have big business policies to cover acts that are related to the business. So if they kill someone, if this drunk driver who's at the Christmas party kills someone, and they come to me, the family comes to me, I'm going to look into the employer's policy. Do they have a business policy that includes automobiles? Does the employee, is he considered an employee or an insured under the policy for that function when he was drinking? the employer is going to say, well, he's not in the course and scope of his employment. We're not covering him. And the insurance company is going to be the first one that says, nope, no coverage. And then I have to fight with the insurance company, because it may not be the employer's fault, but he may be, the employee, the drunk employee, may be covered under the business policy, which are $5 million, $10 million policies. If the drunk employee has minimum limits, the family who suffered from the death or from the injury only get minimum limits unless they have uninsured motorist coverage and umbrella.
So none of this sounds very good, because it's still kind of, there's so many touch points in this. It's more work for you to figure that out, right? Because it's not a simple cut and dry. You've got to tap each.
That's right. I have many cases like this, Michael. And I want to preach a point that I often preach, but it's important. Because of the scenario we just described, the person who gets hurt or killed, I want to tell you that you need the appropriate automobile insurance for just this type of event. Now, obviously, insurance is not going to bring back someone who's been killed. But there are beneficiaries. There are family members who suffer because of the person who died, through no actions of their own, through no fault of their own. So let's talk about this. You need automobile insurance in Ohio. It's a requirement, but the state minimums are only $25,000 for liability coverage. That means if you cause a collision, your insurance will pay up to $25,000. That's state minimum limits. That's not enough under almost every scenario, unless it's a fender bender, scratch, whatever it may be, property damage only. That's not enough insurance. I met with 8 people just last week. Just 8 people off the street, Columbus residents, and we asked them questions. And one question that was asked was, do you know what kind of auto insurance coverage you have? Not one out of the 8 knew what coverage they had. They knew they had auto coverage, but they didn't know what it was.
What their policy covered.
They didn't know what it covered. They don't know the amount it covered. They just know they've got to pay their premiums either monthly, semi-annually, or annually. And that's all they knew. So what that tells me, Michael, is people don't know what they have, and they don't know what to get. So let's just do a quick little primer on that. Obvious minimum limits you should purchase. First of all, you should have more than $25,000 limits of liability coverage. You need at least $100,000, and that's without even trying to single out a person who's a large wage earner, who's got many members of the family that count on them to bring home income. Nothing like that, or a single person. No matter who it is, you need at least $100,000 liability limits. Most importantly, in the scenario we talked about with the employer and the employee who drinks and then goes out and kills or hurts someone, you need underinsurance. You and I have talked about this many times.
It's your favorite.
It's my favorite because nobody knows about it. And agents, insurance agents who you go to, whether it's online or whether it's an independent agent, apparently don't sell it. And I don't know why. But you need to demand it. So
well, they don't bring it up. It is available, but they don't bring it up.
They're not pushing it.
Right.
How about that?
Right. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I think
you're
that's
right.
important to
You're
say.
right. Yeah, to distinguish it. They're not pushing it. Yes, they have it. They all have it. All auto insurance companies have the ability to sell you uninsurance and underinsurance. And what that is, simply put, if the person who hits you and is at fault for causing whatever they caused to you, whether it's injury or death, they will pay the liability limits. And if they're only $25,000 and you have a serious injury or you have died and your family is bringing a claim in behalf of the estate, $25,000 is the limit unless the person who caused the collision is collectible. Most times not. So what you need is uninsurance, which means either the person didn't have insurance, or underinsurance, which they go together, which means they didn't have enough insurance. The person who caused the collision did not have enough insurance. That way, that type of coverage that you buy protects you, at least for your bills, for your lost wages, for all of your out-of-pocket expenses. Not to mention everything else you go through, the non-economic damages, losing a leg, losing a life. So what you need to do, if you're listening to this at all and you don't know what you've got, pull out your insurance policy. If you don't have the policy, the declaration page, It shows how much you owe for each coverage that you buy. Call your agent and ask them, do I have uninsurance and underinsurance? And if they say no, you get it now. You get it for at least as much as your liability limits of $100,000. At least. At least. So, my message today, if you get anything out of what we're talking about today, is you have auto insurance, make sure you have uninsurance, underinsurance, and make sure it's equal to your liability limits, and make sure your liability limits are at least $100,000 or $250,000 or $500,000. People hear these large numbers, Michael, and they think, well, that's going to be too expensive. I can't afford that. You can't afford not to have it.
Well, especially not now. This is the time of year where people are traveling in droves. I mean, it's kind of like watching the birds fly down south. Everybody's on the roads, whether it's even if somebody's not drinking and driving, that you are putting yourself out there on the road with hundreds of thousands of other vehicles. The chances of you getting in an accident increases this time of year. Not just at night, not just when they're drinking, but imagine not putting the time in to find out what you have on your policy.
Oh, absolutely. This is something that people don't think about. These 8 individuals I spoke with this last week just didn't have a clue about it. And they need to be educated, and hopefully this helps someone. If I can just help one person who hears this today to call their agent and get that uninsurance, underinsurance, they'll be forever thankful if they're ever in a collision and they're hurt bad.
It'd be amazing to have a flood of people call their agent, like, who's telling them about this?
They should. You know, insurance, Michael, as you know, I believe is a necessary evil. We have to have it.
Right.
We need to protect ourselves and our family. I'm not a fan of insurance companies because they get their way in Ohio law and they take away consumers' rights. But there's some things we can do. And that is uninsurance and underinsurance. Well, go buy it.
They do give you that. I mean, that is something that it may not be touted that to get this, but it does exist. I mean, that is a protection that is afforded to you.
Yes,
you just have, when you first told me about this over a year ago, I had to call and ask. And the question I got was, why do you want it? And I didn't want to say, well, we do this radio show. So I just said, I just am curious about it because I heard about it. And so it was available, and it was very inexpensive to add.
That's the point. You found out for yourself. It's not as expensive as you might think to get $100,000 or $250,000 in uninsurance and underinsurance.
Well, it's completely worth it, too, when you think about how many people that actually protects. And we've talked about how much you can add to protect yourself. I mean, there's multiple levels, but you know, when you think about it, it's another $6 to $10 a month or something like. It's nothing for another $100,000.
Right, it depends. You look at your policy of what you pay every month or every 6 months or every year, and look at the fine print. What are you paying for? You're paying for liability insurance in case you're at fault, and you should be paying for uninsurance and underinsurance in case the person who hurt you doesn't have enough or has none. Those are prerequisites. The law only requires liability insurance. And why do you think that is, Michael? Why do you think the law doesn't require you to have uninsurance and underinsurance?
Well, it's an expense to pay off for the insurance company. If you need to use it, it's money they have to put out of their pocket, and they're publicly traded companies. Is that the answer?
Well,
Am I close?
You're darn close.
Okay.
It's my opinion. This is my opinion that the reason the legislators who vote on this law that requires us all to have liability insurance on our cars doesn't also include uninsurance and underinsurance as a mandatory minimum requirement too, is because people that are elected are controlled by people who have money to give them so they can get elected, so they can spend the money on TV dollars, and people who don't know left from right are going to go vote for them because they have the most commercials.
That's the name you know.
That is the name you know. And the insurance companies and businesses, Chamber of Commerce, all push candidates who will push their agenda. And they will give them money if they know that candidate will push their agenda. And if the insurance industry doesn't want you to have uninsurance and underinsurance, they're not going to tell the legislator to go push that agenda. So what happens is you're out of luck until you listen to someone like me who will tell you, call your agent and get it. It's not going to cost that much money. It's more important than probably anything you can buy when you're in your car. I don't care what you do with your disposable income. This should be one of the items you have to pay for. You have to get.
But the sad part of it is, if you weren't doing this, if we weren't doing this show, I wouldn't have known about it. But there are millions of people that don't know about it. I mean, you have to know to ask. So if you're looking at the state minimum coverage, you've dealt with people that have been in accidents or been hurt by these people.
Too many times.
What can you even do? If someone's hit you that has the state minimum limit, you're kind of screwed.
You are screwed. I see this more often than not. It riles me up, as you would expect, Michael, because I see people that are hurt, and I have to tell them the bad news. Well, the person who caused it is at fault. You're not. You're badly injured, but they only had $25,000. That won't even touch a fraction of your medical bills. Notwithstanding, not to mention your lost wages, the fact you can't work now. So that's something you should take away today.
Let's take a break right here. You're on a roll, and I hate to stop, but we have to stop for a commercial break. You're listening to Get Justice with Scott Elliot Smith.
Call him Butter. He's on a roll.
All right, so we want to come back and reintroduce what we were talking about.
You want to do the Flynn thing?
No, you're on fire.
Just stay
here. Yeah,
We got about 10 minutes.
Well, I don't have a lot more to talk about, but I can. We can talk about the anatomy of a.
Do that.
Okay, let's do it.
Hey, you know what? I didn't know about that underinsurance and uninsurance till you started talking about it, and I called my agent, who I've known since 7th grade, and she said, yes, I've got it on your policy, both those. And I said, thank you, Kate.
Well, how much? You know how much you got?
No, I think I have 100,000.
At least you should.
Yeah, I have 100,000. I checked after you talked about it a few months ago. I went home, looked at my policy, and said, "Oh, $100,000."
That's good.
But I'm thinking about maybe next year I'll increase that to 300,000.
Absolutely, you never know.
Even though I don't drive a lot, but
month, right?
I never know.
Much.
You never know when somebody's going to ram into you.
That's right.
Somebody runs a traffic
That's
light.
right.
Somebody runs a stop sign.
Yep.
And, you're just minding your own business, and boom!
That's right. Let's do this.
Yep, let's roll.
Rock and roll.
You bring us back.
Okay. Welcome back to Get Justice with Scott Elliot Smith and Michael. Michael, you're kind of like, you're so well known, we can just say Michael and everybody knows who it is.
Yeah, like Pele.
Yeah,
Kinda
like
that.
Pele,
Yeah.
like Cher or Madonna.
Yeah, that's the comparison I wanted, the Cher Madonna.
Yeah, well, that's what I think of when I see it.
Where I have lovely hair. So to get back to what we were talking about, we started with talking about the holidays, the potential for drinking and driving from there, but we got into underinsurance and uninsurance. We had to stop because of a commercial break, so I want you to jump right back into where we were.
All right, let's talk about the anatomy of an auto insurance policy. By law, you got to have liability limits, so you got to pay for that, and that's the only thing that the law of Ohio requires you to have. Now, you should have auto insurance if you have a car and you're driving it. You should, regardless of what the law is. So you've got that. So you look at your liability limits. That should be at least $100,000 minimum, $100,000. So what else do you have on there that you're paying for? Because each item that you have insurance for will be a separate a la carte charge for you. For instance, liability coverage is going to cost you, I'll make this up, $25. Okay? Then you're going to have collision and comprehensive. Tree falls on your car, vandalized car, that kind of stuff. That's going to cost you whatever it's going to cost you. And that coverage is only worth what your car's worth or the repair is worth on that. So look at that closely. You don't want a $500,000 comprehensive collision coverage if you're driving a $25,000 car.
Right.
Now, they don't sell that. I was just exaggerating to make a point. But you look at that. That's not much. Then you go into the uninsurance, underinsurance, we've already talked about. That's a requirement in my book. Get it if you don't have it. Always have it. Always keep it equal to your liability limits and get more if you can. If you can afford it, get more.
And these a la carte items we know that underinsurance and uninsurance are things that you might have to ask for. These a la carte, are they things that you also have to kind of say to your agent, these are the things I'm looking for?
Well, yes, liability limits are required. So you're getting that regardless. If you're getting auto insurance, you're getting that. Comprehensive and collision are usually something that goes along with the policy. That's what they sell. If you buy an auto policy,
your limits. You have the choice to up your
yes,
limits.
you
So
can lower them, you can raise them, you can do whatever you want with them depending on the individual insurance company you're dealing with. Another thing you look into is deductibles. What about comprehensive and collision deductibles? You can raise your deductibles and lower your premium. That's not a bad way to go. So you're going to have to pay $250 if you run into a tree and it's your fault. Okay? So they pay the rest of it, but you're $250 out.
Right.
Dog runs in front of you. Black ice on the road. Still your fault. But the deductible. So what can you stomach? Stomach as much as you can on the deductible. If it's $250, it's $500 because your premium then goes down. If you're a good driver and you don't have a history of accidents, history of collisions, that's a way to go. Increase your deductible, lower your amount.
Well, you see a lot more companies that are marketing that, the good driver discounts and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's more of like a gateway to get you into them because, you know, it doesn't say how you qualify. It could be if you haven't had an accident in 15 years. Well, chances are you've had a fender bender here or there, or you've gotten a ticket, so that doesn't qualify. But I think what people need to know is that if I'm dealing with my agent, what are the specific things I need and what do I need to ask for? Because the limits, until you discussed the limits before, I had no idea that there was a variable of what you could get.
Right. Let me just finish the anatomy
Sure.
because you make a good point about the good driver discount thing. Next thing that comes down along that for some reason agents like to sell you is medical payments benefits. Okay, and you're going to, what is that? Well, if you have good health insurance, you may not necessarily need this. Okay? If you've got health insurance, medical payments benefits may not be worth to keep on your auto policy. So what is it? Medical payments benefits is a benefit up to, usually it's about $5,000. They'll pay your medical bills. Regardless of whether it's your fault in causing the collision or whether it's someone else's fault. They'll pay up to a limit, whatever you purchase. Sometimes, most of the time, it's $5,000. So they'll pay up to $5,000 of your medical bills. But if you got good health insurance is going to pay it already. Now, what I advise people to do is, if they've got good health insurance and they have medical payments benefits, if they're involved in a collision and it's the other person's fault, submit everything to your health insurance. That's what you have it for. That's what you should use. The medical payments benefits can be used for those bills that include deductibles and copays and out-of-network charges. That way we keep everybody out of your pocket. It's not your fault and you're going, I don't have the money for this, Scott. Well, medical payments benefits is what we help coordinate that allows you to pay some of that. But is it really necessary? Look how much it is on your policy to decide if, in fact, it's really beneficial to you. You may want to get rid of it if you have good health insurance. Because it helps a little bit, but is it really worth it? Because I'd rather have you spend the money on what, Michael?
On the underinsurance
That's
and
right.
uninsurance?
That's
yes.
right. That's what I want you to spend the money on. And if you can afford it, get more of that. And if you can afford it, get an umbrella policy that covers your house and your boat and your motorcycle.
Yeah, the umbrella. We forgot we can't leave without
Well,
talking
the
about
umbrella is, now, for those of you who have good auto insurance, you go, I've got what Scott says I should get. I got 100,000 liability. I got 100,000 uninsured motorist coverage. I'm good. No, you're not necessarily good because if you get more insurance, you're better. Now look at me. I'm touting buying more insurance, and I don't even like this industry, but it's a necessary evil. So one thing you can do is if you have a house and you have a car, or you have two cars and you have a boat and you have a motorcycle, go to your agent and get a quote to bundle all those together. Don't have it in 14 different type of policies with 14 different companies. Go to each insurance company, have them give you a quote of bundling it all. And once they bundle it all, say I want an umbrella. An umbrella is exactly what it sounds like. It covers everything in addition to what you've already got. And it isn't that expensive. You usually don't get any insurance agent to ask you if you want umbrella insurance. You almost always have to ask for it. Unless you're sophisticated in the business, because I do it for a living, I know exactly what it is. You don't even know it's probably available. Umbrella insurance, you get an umbrella policy for $1 million, for $5 million. You're going to go, that is so much money, Scott. Yeah, the coverage is great, but the cost is incidental to what you're getting in return. So if you can afford an umbrella policy of $5 million and it costs you $200 a year, $300 a year, because you bundled it all in one policy, you're so much better for it. And at the end of the day, you're going to be so thankful. Because we can't control when someone is not going to be paying attention and they run into you and they run a stoplight and they're texting and they hit you. You can't control that. But you can control what coverage you've got. You need to get that coverage. If you do anything for yourself in this holiday season, is buy yourself some uninsurance or underinsurance, or ask your significant other to do that for you.
Ask someone else to buy it for you. With the last couple of minutes we've got, again, what is the most important thing? Because with the holiday coming up, I know we talked about underinsurance and uninsurance, but people have to look out on the roads today, right? I mean, not just every day going to work, but the holidays, people are drinking, they're out late, they're tired, they're doing whatever. What is the one thing that sticks out to you that you would have people do?
Well, protect yourself with insurance, number one. Number two, don't drive during those times when mostly their drunk drivers are out there. That's probably 10 p.m. to 4 in the morning. If you can avoid driving during that time, do it. Obviously, take Uber if you're going to have a cocktail.
What is the saying?
Lyft.
Nothing good happens after midnight?
Well, that's what my dad used to tell us.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that a lot of times when guys, athletes would get arrested, and my dad would say, nothing good happens after midnight, and I thought, well, I'm going to still find out. But, I mean,
yeah. I had some fun last night at 1 a.m. Of course, that was when I was 21 and in college.
Right.
You won't see me out that late anymore.
Right. You'll be in your sleeping cap.
That's right.
Well, that's it for this week. You really brought the heat today. I'm really excited about what you said.
Well, I hope it helps somebody.
And check your policies, right? Make
check
sure
your
you
policies.
have this stuff.
Do it. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family.
Did you
want
to?
Let him do that.
Okay. Okay. Mic's off, but it's on now.
Remember the last thing. Get Scott Smith. Get justice. Have a happy, safe holiday.
All right. Yeah, this will air Christmas Eve morning. I'll be here to make sure it airs.
Yes.